happen.
I think Pep's actually addressed that previously. But what about the mentality of a goalkeeper? Is it safe to say, I know you only played as a goalkeeper, but the most high-pressured position on the pitch?
Yes, I think you're in a finite position. I think it's critical. And I think now, looking at these guys, more is expected of you. You will get in the team for playing with your feet, because that's what the manager wants. But if you let one in that you should save, then you'll get dropped. So rather than, you're being judged on different levels now, and so you might get dropped as a goalkeeper who isn't so good with their feet and say, well, you're not part of this identity of a team and this brand of football that we want to play. So there's more ways to see yourself out of a team, if that makes sense. And so now the guys have got more to practice, more to focus on, and more pressure.
It's just, you think back of mistakes for goalkeepers and how much pressure that puts. I mean, for yourself, we know you had that World Cup incident, obviously. I mean, how hard was it for you to be back to normal, to be able to be confident in your ability on the pitch, so when that scenario cropped up again, it didn't play in your mind? I
think that you say, well, you have a different mentality to the players, because if you look at it for the outfield players, they're all intermingled in the humdrum of a game. They're running around, they give the ball away 5-6 times in a game maybe, and it's not as critical. If you, as a goalkeeper, you know that you're going to make a mistake, 2 mistakes a season that are going to cost your team a goal if you have a good season. And that's part of the job. That's just part of your life, and you accept it and move on. Now, one came for me in a World Cup. Others came along in important games as well. What you can't, you sit there and, in my mind, everyone deals with it differently. You sit there and go, well, that's my one for the 6 months. That's my one for the season. I'm going to make sure twice as much that it's not going to happen again in the near future. Now, that's not to say it didn't happen, but you just say, right, I've just got to focus. It happens. You move on. So that's how you deal with it. What you don't need is sort of now with social media, now with your access to criticism or a voice from everybody in the world, that it's unavoidable that you're gonna face it from somewhere. So, things move on. The guys now are a lot more open to the press. The attitude of the players is a lot more accepting, and I think now it's a lot more understanding, because you realise these guys are just lads out there playing football, and the goalkeepers are exactly the same. They're just guys that could have been playing on a park pitch this week, but they just happen to be playing in front of 50,000 people.
Yeah, or more. But of course, you have an opportunity to prove yourself again after making a mistake. What if you're, say, Olivier Giroud, who can't even get on the pitch when you're trailing 2-1?
Yes, Ollie's in a position now at Chelsea where he's dropped down the pecking order, and I think he's got his abilities and he's got his strengths, but at the minute the manager's seen Tammy as the way forward, and you look at that and you say, well, who can argue? Really, the goals he scored, the way he's played, and the way that he's carried the mantle for the Chelsea player, and this new brand of club that they're trying to promote, young players coming forward from the academy through the youth setup, and he is sort of the focal point of that. And coming here, he's had a tough game today because he's up against 2 physical centre halves. And you look at someone like Ollie Giroud, who sit there and hopefully you look at it and say, well, maybe my role's a bit different now as a more experienced player. I'm looking at this to say, well, I can help, and I advise Tammy and tell him, because one of Ollie Giroud's greatest strengths is probably one of Tammy's weakest games in the hold-up play. So you're looking at that saying, well, as a club player and a good guy, which I know he is, you may be saying, well, your role might be different now, and it is mentoring these younger players.
All right, well, we do have some social media questions I have to get to. This one comes from Isaac, going back to Manchester City. He says, City clawed back a 10-point deficit last season. That's when they had a game in hand, made it down to 7, obviously. And there have been plenty of teams over the years who have been unable to maintain their form in the second half of the season. Could the experienced side, which obviously City have, back-to-back titles, do it again?
Why not? I mean, they'll be in that dressing room saying, we've got to do it. You look at last season, and City went from, I think it was around Christmas, from the new year, and just went in an unbeaten winning run, which was, which Liverpool just couldn't live with. Now, I've likened it to the Tiger Woods effect on the final round of round of golf, that they will be there. You could be 5 shots in the lead going into the final round, but Tiger's 5 shots back, and in years gone by, maybe not so much now, but you realise that, crikey, Tiger's behind me. And they know that they're there. Liverpool will know that they'll be winning the games, and they'll say, We're not clear yet. We're not clear yet, and they won't be saying that until they're mathematically it's impossible for them to catch them. So, I think City are capable of going on one of those runs. They did it last season. Liverpool came second with a record number of points for coming second, and that will play on the minds over the course of the season. And Jurgen Klopp will be sat there going, "Boys, we've got to get every point while we can," because as the person tweets in, it's a long season. You look at that front three for Liverpool. Salah wasn't there today starting, and it only takes an injury to one of those three, and if worse, even worse, two of those three, then you're looking at a whole different Liverpool team.
You keep talking about golf. I find that interesting. You should be hanging out with Gareth Bale, I think.
Well, yeah. I don't play for Real Madrid, and it's not third on my list of priorities.
You guys can play golf together, particularly now as you're retired. You know what? Before we continue our discussion here, we've heard from Pep Guardiola. Here's Frank Lampard.